Let me tell you something. Some people would rather lose with their friends than win somewhere nobody can follow them. And that sounds pathetic. That sounds like it's wrong until it happens to you. So, what I mean by this is that there's something strange about how the loneliest moments of your life probably won't happen when you're alone. They'll happen when you finally get the thing you wanted, whether that be a promotion, an acceptance letter, a move, a dream body, a specific number in your bank account that you've been reaching for. You look around for someone to tell, and you realize the people you wanted beside you don't really exist anymore. I don't think anyone talks about that part. Nobody tells you that sometimes the price of becoming who you wanted to be is slowly becoming intelligible to the people you love. And maybe worse, becoming unknown to yourself. When I was younger, I thought suffering was the interruption. I thought life was divided into two categories: the painful part and the meaningful part. Like eventually the loneliness will stop, the confusion will stop, the instability will stop, and then life would finally begin. But I think somewhere along the way, we quietly realized something terrifying. The struggle wasn't preventing the connection, but it was the connection. Think about the people you miss most. It's rarely the people you were impressive around. It's the people you were unfinished around. It could be the friend sitting next to you in a car that barely worked. It could be the person eating convenience store food with you at midnight because none of you guys had money. It could be the classmate laughing during the walk home after failing the same exam. I mean, that was literally me earlier today in a parking lot laughing with people because we all thought we failed a math exam. In these situations, you aren't building anything extraordinary, but somehow those moments felt more alive than the things you later worked years to achieve. So why is this the case? Well, I think it's because suffering creates witnesses, and human beings can survive almost anything except the feeling that nobody saw it happen. There's this moment that happens to a lot of people later in life, and nobody really warns you about it, but your life starts separating into different altitudes. One person gets successful as the years go on, another disappears, another gets in a different relationship every year, maybe they get engaged or whatever. Someone develops a drinking problem or a drug problem, and another person moves away and becomes a voice note or a text that you say you'll respond to later, but you never do. And slowly, that the group chat or the original people that you used to be around, it dies without anyone officially killing it. And it's not dramatic. It's not all at once, just ever so slightly fewer replies, longer silences, things people text that no one knows how to discuss honestly. And one day you realize when you're in those positions that you would trade some of your progress just to sit in one room with the old versions of everyone again. The versions where everyone was together and everyone bonded, and it didn't feel like everyone was in different chapters of their life. Even though everyone is better at those different chapters of their life, some people are better in those different chapters of their life. Even if you're better at that different chapter of your life, you would still sometimes wish to be your old self with the old versions of everyone. And that's the part nobody admits. Achievement is often emotionally dislocating because every transformation creates distance, and distance is strange because at first it feels empowering. You finally outgrow the place that hurt you. You finally stop needing approval, or you finally became better. But eventually you notice something uncomfortable, which is that the higher you climb, the more your victories stop feeling real unless someone who knew the old you is there to see them. Otherwise, it feels like performing for strangers, and strangers clap for outcomes, Only people who suffered with you understand the cost. A lot of people don't miss the past, I don't think. I think it's more so that people miss who witnessed it with them. I think that's why, for example, some people stay in relationships they've already emotionally outgrown. It's not because they're weak or it's not because they're irrational, but because shared suffering is in itself its own language, essentially. You survive enough together, and eventually the pain itself starts feeling intimate. Like, you were there when my life collapsed. You saw the version of me no one else knows existed. You remember things about me I can't prove anymore. That kind of connection is hard to replace, maybe even impossible. And modern life makes this worse because we've become obsessed with optimization. Better routines, better bodies, better careers, better networking, better opportunities. Everyone's trying to become their highest performing self. But almost nobody asks, what if becoming better slowly removes you from the conditions where love naturally generates? Because love rarely forms during perfection. It forms in uncertainty, in mutual embarrassment, in confusion, in being 18 and lost and eating cheap food on the floor. That's where people become real to each other, not when everything is polished. You see it happen everywhere. A band breaks apart after becoming famous. Childhood friends stop recognizing each other after success arrives unevenly. Someone achieves everything they wanted and quietly becomes unbearable to talk to. It's not because success corrupted them, but because isolation changes the emotional temperature of a person. Winning alone does something strange to the human nervous system. You become efficient but less reachable. There's a grief that comes from outgrowing people, and another grief that comes from realizing they outgrew you first. And maybe the cruelest part is that nobody is technically wrong. Life just pulls unevenly. Some people heal faster. Some people break slower. Some people stay attached to old pain because it's the last remaining bridge between them and the people they used to love. That's why nostalgia hurts so much. It's not memory, it's evidence. Evidence that connection once existed effortlessly. I think deep down, a lot of young people are terrified by the same thing. And it's not failure, it's isolation. Because failure with people still feels like life. You can laugh during failure. You can survive failure. You can romanticize failure once you're successful. But isolated success, that's way harder to metabolize. Because there's nobody to say, yeah, I remember who you were before all of this happened. And social media intensifies the feeling because everyone is visible, nobody is known. You watch people slowly become brands of themselves, curated personalities, optimized opinions, emotionally airbrushed lives. And maybe that's why so many people secretly fantasize about disappearing with their closest friends somewhere remote. It's not luxury, it's not status, it's not just this thing that is the norm now, but it's presence, something unrecorded, something unwitnessed by the internet. A cabin, a road trip, a tiny apartment with bad heating and too many people sitting on the floor. Because part of us is starving for situations where we matter to each other more than we matter to the algorithm. You can survive with very little as long as someone else is surviving beside you. And I don't think we fully appreciate how much of adulthood becomes an attempt to recreate accidental intimacy. Office relationships trying to imitate school friendships, dating apps trying to imitate running into someone naturally, networking events trying to imitate belonging. But the older you get, the more engineered everything feels. Like everyone arrives edited, already careful, already aware of their value. And maybe that's why people become obsessed with the past. Because the past existed before everybody turned themselves into products. There's a scene that repeats itself in cities every night. Someone gets home after accomplishing something important. Maybe they got the job. Maybe they hit some huge milestone. Maybe they finally became the person they promised themselves they'd become. And they sit alone in silence for a second longer than expected. Because the human brain does something strange after achievement. It looks for witnesses, not followers, not viewers. It looks for witnesses. Someone who understands the years before the moment, the fear, the humiliation, the invisible parts. And without that, success can start feeling oddly weightless, like holding a trophy on the moon. I don't think people actually want easy lives. I think they want a shared life. And there's a huge difference because the moments people cherish most are rarely moments of comfort. They're moments of togetherness inside comfort. Human beings are strange like that, I think. And we can turn suffering into meaning faster than we can turn comfort into connection. And maybe that's why some people sabotage themselves after achieving success. Because part of the miss is being reachable. Because once your life diverges too far from the people who shaped you, you start experiencing a very specific kind of loneliness. One that sounds like, I got what I wanted, but then why do I miss when everything was worse? Because maybe pain shared with people you love feels safer than pleasure experienced completely alone. Maybe because human beings were never designed to experience life as isolated achievements. Maybe because the real tragedy isn't suffering, it's suffering invisibly. One day, you'll probably look back on a difficult period of your life and realize the thing you miss most wasn't who you were, it was who was beside you while you were becoming. All right. Peace, guys.